these first days of PlayStation, you start on this new team. It's exciting. It's what you kind of willed into existence since '86. Is there any fear? Is there a trepidation? You're starting off and launch. Is PlayStation ever going to see the light of day? Is PlayStation or is Sony going to cancel it or not want to do it? Do you worry about that at all?
So, because I love video games and I really wanted to work in video game at Sony, so my personal goal, as I joined Ken's team, was to help, somehow contribute to make PlayStation be successful, so that I can keep working on this project, working on video game.
Yeah.
So that was the most important goal, I think, for me. So I was always thinking about the overall, how PlayStation is doing, not just the thing I was directly responsible for, but I was always thinking what's lacking with PlayStation, what needs to be done from, game to platform to marketing to, whatever. So that's how I was always thinking. The most difficult time during PlayStation, other than the launch of PS3, that was hard. But during PS1 days, we launched, in Japan in 1994. The next Christmas, Christmas 1995, we didn't have a big title for the Christmas. And at that time in the industry, Christmas season was so important.
100%.
But we didn't have, we had Konami's dating game, Tokimeki Memorial. That was a great game, but that was the only game. And at that time, we are competing with Sega Saturn. And Sega had Virtua Fighter 2. It's an amazing game, hugely popular in the arcade. So the first Christmas was great. We had Ridge Racer, they had Virtua Fighter, so we sold out, hardware. So both our companies did great, but the second Christmas, Sega Saturn was doing better. So that was the most difficult time that I felt as part of PlayStation.
When you say it's the most difficult time, what does that mean? Is it the morale? Is it pressure from the boss's boss's boss? What does that look like?
Yeah, because I was one of the leaders in the third-party relations team. The responsibility was to bring great games, from third-party companies, and we are not able to deliver that Christmas.
Gotcha.
So that was really, tough.
Of course. I want to talk about your ascension to being, but you bring up the PS3. Talk to me about that. How hard of a launch that was. Like, what again? Is that like? Is this before Slack? So you're in the office, you're talking about this, you're looking at numbers. Like, when something like that happens, when the PlayStation 3 comes out and doesn't do, like, when do you remember being like, oh, we're in trouble on this one?
Yeah, so before the launch of PS3, because we get the prototype hardware, right?
Yeah.
To work on, first party, and the teams start working on. And it took multiple months to get the team to have something on screen to see. Yes, the PS3 CPU was such a advanced kind of architecture.
The cell processor, never forget.
Yeah, cell processor has multiple processors inside the processor, and the programmer has to divide the program into these different chunks to simultaneously use these processing power to draw the potential power of the hardware. And great people makes it amazing performance. The peak performance of cell processor was huge. It was even banned from exporting to certain countries, because it was considered supercomputing might be used for some military usage or something. Yeah. However, it was so hard to program that I learned from our, studio teams. That was scary, right? And the another thing was cost of goods that we never announced, and but it was so because the company built a factory to manufacture cell processor, and the development of cell processor was a huge project, with IBM and Toshiba was it, like
Sure.
multiple companies, lots of people involved. So the development cost was huge, and manufacturing investment was huge. And when I was talking with Ken, and Ken explained the business model of sales processor was, so he was thinking beyond video game,
Yeah.
right? He had a huge huge vision that, yeah, well, people said he was competing with Intel at the time. So he said that we're gonna build so PS3 would be huge, and he said we're gonna build as big a new business outside the video game based on cell processor.
Sure.
So that was his business plan. So when you hear that, what would you think? Oh, okay, we have to build as big a new business out of this thing. Otherwise, we won't be able to recoup the investment.
No big
So
deal.
that was scary. Yeah. And of course, that vision didn't happen, unfortunately.
And then
Right.
one of the big parts of the PS4 was like, "Hey, it's not the cell; it's a PC. It'll work." You're Cerny out there trying to tell every developer
Don't
to bring
worry,
it.
you know how to program.
Yeah. That was nice.
Yeah. So the launch year and the second year after launch, the company made huge loss. Yeah. So I thought, we would be over. We are over. But luckily, during these years, Sony's TV division had a huge hit with flat screen, big screen CRT, not CRT, but called Vega series.
Oh yeah,
was
we
a
remember
huge
Vega.
success. Yeah. So the Sony parent company made lots of money to cover the loss from PS3. So we survived.
Was there ever a concern from you that PlayStation wouldn't survive that?
Oh yeah, when I learned about the loss we are making, I was like, oh, we are finished.
And so then, PS3. I feel like Sony Worldwide Studios. You obviously in 2008. This is when you take over for the president role. But I feel like PS3 is really where that coalesces and becomes a thing, where people really do think about what would become PlayStation Studios. And we talk so much about first party and what people were making and all these different things. Like, was that because people now had to work so collaboratively because of the cell processor? You're saying it's so hard to make stuff for it. Were people having to share more stuff, and did it feel like it was y'all against the world?
So Worldwide Studio was formed in 2005.
Yeah.
That was Ken Kutaragi's creation. Ken's vision. Because the games are becoming larger in scope, and we are divided, three different companies within the company under Sony Computer Entertainment. Japan, US, and Europe have totally different production teams and making games individually. And each of us are like a mid-size, like a publisher. And Ken thought that, it's about time to, combine all the resources together to create the global organization. So that was Worldwide Studio. And luckily, because that happened and PS3 was so challenging to work on, we leveraged the best of best, technical expertise within the Worldwide Studios. For example, like engine program that Naughty Dog and Mark Cerny created. We provided, made that available for all the teams, in Worldwide Studios to make games on PS3 to extract the performance necessary to make games on PS3. And eventually, because third-party companies, publishers also struggled, we made these programs made available through our development portal to third-party companies as well. So under our studio, Phil Harrison and I worked, to make it so that the teams, let's collaborate, let's share the ideas and know-how and even technologies, tools together to learn from each other. So that's how I started the twice a year gathering of developers during GDC and E3 time. And Kaz Hirai succeeded Ken Kutaragi to be the head of PlayStation, and he wanted our studio teams to join the hardware development. So, after Ken left, there are two new projects, PS Vita and PS4. So, I helped, hardware team to get Maksani to on board to become the chief architect of these hardwares, PS Vita and PS4. And, I moved to Japan. Kaz asked me to move from US to Japan because he wanted me to work closely with the hardware team. So while managing our studio, a part of time I spent participating in hardware meetings like PS Vita or PS4 meetings. And every time the hardware team had a question, like there are lots of choices they can make, what kind of device or technology they should choose to include in the future platform hardware. They want to make the hardware best for the games. So they really appreciated me to connect the hardware team with the studios like Santa Monica Studios, Naughty Dog, Guerrilla Games, Media Molecule, whoever has a good idea on that particular technical topics that hardware team had in question. So hardware teams have created the prototype and provided to our studio teams, and our studio teams created prototype games based on the prototype hardware and sent back to the hardware team, and we gathered together and discussed, and I invited the hardware team to join the studio gathering meeting during GDC and E3 so that they can have one face-to-face meeting to discuss these, hardware specification discussions. And one great example, fruit of that effort is for PS4. You remember DualShock 4 had the share button, right?
Yeah, I've heard of it once or twice.
Yeah. So the PS4 was the very first game hardware that anyone can become a streamer, right? That idea came from Santa Monica Studios team.
No way, really?
They put together this presentation. Nathan Gary, who created Annapurna Interactive later and left Annapurna Interactive last year.
Yeah.
So he put together a slide saying that now that YouTube and Twitch are becoming popular, how about adding a dedicated button on controller so that anyone can just press the button and start streaming the games from PS4. So that the hardware team loved the idea, and that became the share button.
This episode's brought to you by Built. If you're a renter, I'd start taking advantage of Built if I were you. Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, and practically everything else we buy. But we should also be earning points on rent, one of our biggest monthly expenses. Built changed the game by letting renters earn high-value points on rent and around their neighborhood. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points toward. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So, if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/kindafunny. That's joinbilt.com/kindafunny. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you there. Join built.com/kindafunny to start earning points on your rent payments today. This episode's brought to you by BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled in. In 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's part of your story you've been wanting to revise. Life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live. Some of my best friends use BetterHelp, and they love how helpful it can be for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And it serves over 5 million people worldwide. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/kindafunny. BetterHelp.com/kindafunny.
And it was a brilliant idea, right? I think it was one of those things that was ahead of its time. And now it's quaint because it's so easy to stream everything everywhere and everybody's doing it. But I remember, like, you think of what would go on to become kind of funny, but me streaming on my personal YouTube, right? Game Over Greggy. And it was that idea of the hoops I had to jump through to make it work, but this was turnkey. Everybody could suddenly do it and try it and see if you liked it, right? Like, you could go live and get the 2 viewers you might get, but you'd know if it works and you'd be able to see if you enjoy doing it. Like, it was a brilliant maneuver. And I think that comes from the collaboration you're talking about. And I'm glad it works so well for PlayStation 4, but I need to ask, why didn't it work for Vita? Shu, where did we go wrong with PlayStation Vita? You and I love the Vita. You know we love it. What happened?
Well, there are, multiple reasons, right? Why Vita didn't work. It worked in a way that people love playing games, especially, indie games on PS Vita, right? So it was lovely hardware, I loved it, and people loved it. Gio Kosi loved it, almost too much, right?
Yeah, of course. To the chagrin, when PlayStation wanted to stop talking about Vita, Gio and you would not let them stop talking about Vita.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember you and Colin always trying to help Vita, like a Vita Island, right? You even tried to recycle people who stopped playing PS Vita, send us so that I can provide
the Vita relocation program. Never forget.
Yeah.
A video we tried to debut that. During we did a PSX panel. We did a Beyond panel for PSX every year, and we tried to debut that video. Maybe it was PS I Love You even at this point. It might have been PS I Love You. It doesn't matter. We tried to debut the video at the relocation thing at PSX, and PlayStation PR called me the night before, and they're like, we're not showing this video where you're talking about the platform being dead and that people should send it into you to give it away. I digress. Where did we go wrong? Was it the back touch? It was the touchscreen.
So the positive side, when PS Vita started, Mark Cerny got brought on, and our team started joining. And the original idea, for the SoC, the core processor, was a different one, and that was going to be a failure from our team standpoint and Mark Cerny. So we are able to convince the team to change the main processor. So that was the very first contribution. And, we did a lot of, conversations, discussions, and making prototype, and the several technical choices we as a company made didn't really was a good one. The, one of which was the, dedicated memory card.
Right. Yeah, proprietary.
People had to purchase, proprietary memory card. That was a mistake. People had to spend more money to get the memory card.
Yeah.
And the back touch was not necessary. Right. It was sometimes the teams made amazing prototype that felt so good, and that misled everyone involved that this would be great, but the backtouch was not. It added additional cost to the hardware. I think OLED was okay. It was such a beautiful screen. It was
Gorgeous.
such a amazing, but the cost was higher.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the cost. And the one feature, the hardware team had it, in the development hardware, like a dev kit for Vita, the same kind of unit, but it had a video out so that, a developer can connect to screen, like a, monitor and develop games on. And somehow, hardware team decided to take that feature out from the consumer image.
Who would want a
say,
handheld that you could also play on the TV? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Shu.
that's
It just
really,
nobody wants
really
that.
a bad idea, right? So hardware team removed that feature just to save a few cents of cost from the hardware. So that was not. But I think the biggest reason, in my mind, it's not a popular kind of thinking, but I think the biggest reason for Vita didn't do as well as we had hoped was we had to split all our efforts, resources into two different platforms.
Sure.
And we didn't have that resource. So, PS3 and PS Vita or PS4 and PS Vita, studio had to decide which team to work on which. And we didn't have that big talent pool to be able to support two different platforms. And of course, console is the biggest platform. We had to support PS3 and the launch of PS4. Really, we had to stop many projects from Vita because we didn't have team to make PS4 games. So otherwise, I think that's the biggest reason. And I think, this is another personal thinking. One of the reasons of the big success of Nintendo Switch is they stopped, working on two different platforms.
100%.
They always had, console and the handheld, right? And it's like an opposite of us. Nintendo did very well on handheld, but not so well on the console. So it was different from our side. But Nintendo Switch, all first party, just worked on just one hardware, right? So that, I think, really helped.
Oh, 100%,
Nintendo
right?
Switch. I think. So I think that's the biggest reason.
Was there, and when you see the Switch and you understand what they're doing with it, this is obviously at debut I'm talking about, had there ever been even an inkling of a conversation on PlayStation side of like, what if we did that? Or was it, was it just, oh, well, we make the Vita, we make the console, we make a handheld, we make a console. Like, was there ever even a conversation in a, brainstorm of like, what if we just did one?
When I saw Nintendo Switch, I thought, oh, this is PS Vita 2.
And it is. And now the Steam Deck's Vita 3.
Of how great to play indie games on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing system for indie games. But in terms of if a company thought about making system like that, I don't think so, because PlayStation legacy was to provide the cutting edge, great hardware, performance hardware at a very affordable, price, and make the never seen before amazing, especially graphics games on console. So that was, a legacy. So moving from PS3 generation to PS4 generation, actually PS4 was designed alongside the PS Vita. So PS4 was already in the making. So after PS4, again, the PS4 was so successful, it's just natural to create a new hardware that's backward compatible with PS4, right? That's the extension or expansion of PS4. So that was PS5.
So then, before we move out of our handheld dreams here and we talk of all this stuff, talk to me about then, and you're at this point obviously over in the indie role, but you're still at PlayStation. Were they shocked to find out we all wanted a PlayStation Portal? Like, when that drops, I know there's been, it outsold, it did more than what people thought it was going to do. Were you like, see, this is what I'm talking about, people want to hold their games?
Maybe Nishino-san would say that. When I learned about the PS Portal, I was like, who'd want this hardware? Just doing remote play, right? Yeah, so I remember saying to the hardware team, the only way the PS Portal will be successful would be if we sell this at $199. That's the only way. And they did it. Not because I said that, but
Yeah.
probably they had the same kind of thinking. At the launch, the hardware didn't have that streaming capability,
Yeah.
even though it was like a technically possible, but they are not able to have it ready for the launch. So the only function that PS Portal had was to play your games on your PS5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a peripheral. So I didn't think people would spend more than $200 for a device like that. But luckily the company put that price, and the people found out how nice it is to play games. It's a huge 8-inch screen. It's
Gorgeous.
kind of light, right? Because it doesn't have big CPU or anything, and it has the real dual sense features in it. So yeah. So we are all surprised how well it was received and how well it sold.
So now that you're out, you have all this industry knowledge, obviously this industry history, you understand it. Now that you're out, do you think we ever see PlayStation enter again the handheld market? Like in terms of like the success of Portal, the learnings of Vita, seeing Steam Deck, seeing Switch, hearing about Xbox and their rumored handheld.
Yeah. So personally, for the last 3 or 4 years, the hardware gadget category I've been mostly excited with, I might have talked to you about this, is the portable gaming PC category. That's, so I purchased like MPD, GPD is a great company from China. They make amazing portable gaming PC hardware. GPD Max, Wing Max 2, GPD Wing. Sorry,
no, you're doing great.
Conventions. Yeah, clamshell version of GPD Wing 2 is so good, and also Ayaneo is another company who create beautiful hardware. And the latest that I enjoy using is the Ayaneo Pocket S. It's not PC, but it's a Android device with two. Yeah. That's the GPD Wing.
If you're an audio listener, this is a laptop. It's a laptop that has dual sticks to the top and a D-pad. And
the Ayaneo Pocket S is an Android device with 2 analog sticks and all the gaming buttons, and that play beautifully these recent mobile games. Some games are real action games, right?
Yeah.
And so this Android device plays games so well. So that's the category I buy 1 or 2 new hardware every year these days. So of course I'm so excited if PlayStation in the future makes something like this. However, personally, because I said company, even now PlayStation is much bigger than PS3 days, but I don't think it's a good idea to try to manage 2 different platforms like PS4
for sure.
and PS
Yeah.
Vita.